Hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about what happens after Starfield's been released, based on what we've seen so far and what I think will be missing from the game. Now, if you look at all the videos that Bethesda have put out, you'll notice there's several things, like major space battles and star destroyers and this kind of thing. They're just not in the game. It seems to be all small ships attacking each other. I think when we get the game, what we're going to see is basically what we normally see in, say, Skyrim, Oblivion. One guy running around, couple of troops here and there, shooting it out, nothing major. But I think the second the game is released, everything's going to be upscaled. We're going to see big spaceships. You probably get DLCs, that will be based on a ship where you're traveling around the universe doing missions, a bit like various sci-fi shows over the years. That's what I think is going to happen. Now, if you've done all the work of making a small ship, perform like that, it shouldn't be too difficult to make a city in space with guns and an engine do the same thing. And whilst, the DLCs and Bethesda can be a bit hit and miss when you're talking like horse armour, they've been really good when you're talking about, Far Harbour, and game, and even Shivering Isles and things like that. So they can do these large DLCs and put in the effort to make them really good. In the particular case of, say, star systems and things like that, and you have basically a ship in space that can travel between stars or between systems, you can take what you need with you. You can have as much gear on board as you need. Go to a star system, perform a mission. And if what I'm suspect is right and they're going to use like a level list system again to spawn things on planets, then it'd be dead easy for them to just insert their own code for the DLCs into the game anywhere they like and have these new missions pop up on the pre-existing planets. They wouldn't need anything else. It would basically be turning a planet from, say, a basic planet with maybe a base here and some animals to a base here, some animals and something else here. Or something else there, or maybe turning a planet from a normal planet into like a volcanic world, or introducing new environments and things like that for you to explore. It's like some of the other games where they started out a bit simple and then DLCs added more or updates added more to the game until planets became really rich and varied with lots of interesting things going on them. That's what I think is going to happen in Starfield. I think the DLCs will add bigger things, more content in the relation to what can be spawned in a new game or an existing game. So you go to a planet, it looks down the list, it finds a new content, it chooses that, it adds that to the planet. That's what I think. I mean, right now, we know there's an element of random generation. We don't know whether that's done on the Bethesda's side, and whether it's going to be the same for everybody when the game's released, or whether it's going to be, on our side, and every one of our games are going to be completely different except for a few core planets. It's probably going to be the latter, let's face it, but if they did do it that way anyway, they could still add to these planets anytime they liked. There's no reason why they couldn't mod their own worlds with a DLC. Now, if they did do these massive starships, imagine the battles you could have with two starships shooting out side by side and exploding, randomly spawning capital ships, that kind of thing. Or even, this is one of my favourite plot lines from years gone by. It actually came from a comic long since forgotten, right? Whereas there was an old empire. In fact, it's probably the reason why I liked Asimov so much. There's an old empire, long since gone, and its capital ship was lost in an area of space where it couldn't actually be recovered, because it was too lethal. Anyhow, somebody eventually recovers it, and it's got a picture of it's got an old figurehead of the Emperor on the front. And people recover it, and it's the biggest, baddest battleship in the galaxy, now in charge of the people that salvaged it. And then the adventure begins. And I'm thinking that kind of plotline is an old favourite of mine. I always loved it. In the TV show Foundation made for Apple, they did something similar, with the battleship there, but they did make a few liberties with the Foundation storyline. But it's still a really good story, especially if you stick to traditional starship designs and don't go fancy with these kind of flying circle things like they did in the Foundation. But I did like the Foundation series, to be honest. But if you think about a large destroyer, imagine what you could do with it. you could have battles against entire systems, pirate systems where you're just flying. Egosoft and the X series do this really well. Their capital ship engagements are some of the best, on the actual gaming scene right now. Although the games aren't very user friendly. Egosoft haven't quite managed to get that right, to be honest. So, but anyway, they've been trying for years though. And Bethesda are far better at making things user friendly. They're usually quite good in that area. So if they did it, it would be good. You can almost be certain it'd be good. Although the controls and the environment and the interface, there's a relatively simple usually, a mouse, keyboard or gamepad, and that's about it. So there'll be a lot of complicated things missing, I reckon. But if they do go down that road and they do decide to add all these fancy gadgets and, big void shields and whatever else to the game in later DLCs, then as the DLCs are released, and remember, Bethesda have already said they want to support games longer now because they recognise people still be playing that game in 10 years' time. Skyrim. It's been updated so many times and it keeps selling. Bethesda have already stated they know this. They're going to support a game long term. So we might see DLCs on a regular basis for the next 10 years. It'd be quite good if they did support some of these old favourites, because I'd like to have seen still more DLCs still made for Oblivion. And that was released in 2006. So, but if they do go down that road, the potential for a game with randomly generated worlds could mean that the game area just gets richer, more develops, more interesting over time, until when you get to a certain year, and you look back, you think, that was simple when it was released, wasn't it? It's so easy. Now it's got all these things in and Klingons and whatever else in it as well. And you start thinking to yourself, I much prefer the game now than then. So all the people that didn't buy it now will get it later. So they sell even more games. It becomes even more of a classic. Anyway, I do think these DLCs will add a lot more gameplay when they eventually release the game and they eventually start working on the DLCs. I also think they'll probably allow user content to be released as well, since they've already established they like to do that. Although the user content in question, paid for user content, I think I don't know. Sometimes it's really good. The people do a really good job. Other times they don't. Yeah, I think they'd have to be careful with that, but some mods are excellent. We all know that they're absolutely excellent. So, why not? That's my thoughts. Anyway, let us know what kind of DLCs you'd like to see in Starfield. Personally, gigantic destroyers, that's the one for me. So, what are you interested in? What do you want to see? Let me know. Right, see you in the next one.